So how do you think the Lakers should approach this, and how much work does LeBron or Anthony Davis have to do calling guys saying, I know it's going to be less money, but will you come play with us?
Well, I mean, free agency is all about working the phones. I think the presidents and GMs have their say-so, but, you know, you definitely want to have a say-so if you're a player yourself. And I think that's a lot. It's very powerful if you get a call from somebody wanting to play with you, especially when you're going to have to take less money. But in the Lakers instance, they're the Lakers. They're always chasing championships, and anytime you're in the business of championships, this is the flexibility or the maneuvering or the finesse that you have to have. They're going to have to surround all of the talent that they have right now with Mark, with their big three, and make sure they get shooting around them. I think we all know that LeBron, he has his style that he likes to have shooters around him. We all know what Anthony Davis brings. He's going to bring the muscle in the paint that they need. But Russell Westbrook is also going to be a force in the paint. He's going to play his game and play full court. They're going to have to surround those guys with shooters and, you know, hopefully get some bargain prices of them. And I know there's plenty of guys out there who will join the Lakers, and we'll see what happens today.
Well, look, I'm glad CB brought up shooting because I'm tired of everybody overemphasizing spacing and shooting, because we just saw in this year's finals the way that Giannis dominated. The Milwaukee Bucks did not shoot well from the three-point line at all. But as long as you have superstar power, you could get the job done, right? In the finals, it's all about your superstars rising to the occasion. We saw Caldwell Pope. We saw Danny Green. We saw those guys struggle when the Lakers made their first run. Now, I get it. If you could go out and get a J.J. Redick on a vet minimum, then you got to go do that. If you can go out and get a Carmelo Anthony on the vet minimum, then you also got to go do that. I just feel like when it comes down to LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, and Anthony Davis, this has been a plan that they have been thinking about for a very long time. We know all of these guys are close friends. We know that LeBron James is getting to a point of his time in his career where he's going to be willing to make the necessary sacrifices, meaning maybe having to play the power forward position. Anthony Davis having to make the sacrifice of playing the center position and playing and let Russell Westbrook lead the charge. We know that Russell Westbrook could also be the facilitator on the team. Last year, he led the league in assists. He wants to get others involved. So I think when you have this much star power and you have a guy like Anthony Davis that could control the paint on both ends of the floor, then yeah, you can fill in the gaps a little bit. But with those three players, I like my chances.
Well, it is interesting, the gaps they do have to fill in. Dave, Perk just mentioned J.J. Redick. Who do you think they are targeting?
Wow. Well, they're targeting a lot because they need to. There's 11 open roster spots as they head into free agency. It could be less if they retain some of their own guys. Alex Caruso, Taylor Horton Tucker, they've already tendered a qualifying offer for THT that would lend us to believe that they're going to match whatever comes on the outside as a restricted free agent. But then you have the mid-level exception, which isn't all that much money because they're a taxpayer, only $5.9 million. So you'll be asking some of these people that could get more money on the outside market to come, and the veteran minimum. And so they, Perk, you're great, but three-point shooting is a huge part of today's game. They were 21st in the league in threes last year, and Perk mentioned J.J. Redick. That's a name. Wayne Ellington, a former Laker. There's another name. Trevor Ariza, Avery Bradley. And some of these guys, the good part about it, they can shoot the three, but they're not a one-dimensional player. They can provide other, the defensive intensity or certainly the veteran acumen that you bring to the group. But they got a lot of spots to fill, and it's going to be really interesting to see, do they target one player with this mid-level, or do they split it up and just say, we can offer you a little bit more than veteran minimum?
Well, it's certainly become more complicated just in terms of getting the right skill sets on the floor with Russ coming there. Obviously, the big stars felt like that was the move because we know they all got together. But, Ramona, this is not the first time Russell Westbrook has tried to come to L.A., right? You had such an interesting detail this morning. Can you share that with our friends here?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's interesting, that this Russ move we've all talked about. I feel like I've been on this show several times and we've talked about it. But in the summer of 2019, when we were all talking about Kawhi coming to the Lakers, the Clippers are going back to the Lakers.
Would he bring someone with him?
Yeah, would he go there alone? One of the guys who took matters into his own hands was Russell Westbrook. Called up Kawhi and said, hey, I'm from LA, you're from LA. Is there a way we can make this work? Kawhi wasn't all that interested in that.
That's
and
amazing.
Kawhi ends up calling Paul George and saying, hey, I'd rather go with you, but you should just know that I had a conversation with your guy. So if you don't want to.
So Kawhi basically said to Paul George, who was teammates with Russell Westbrook, and we remember the whole press conference and the concert and the whole thing. It's going to be the two of them. Kawhi called PG and said, hey, I don't know if you know this. Russ is looking to leave. Maybe you should leave and come with me instead.
Here's what's like, it's not so much that Russ was looking to leave. Russ was just, hey, what do you think? We're from LA. Could this work? It was just one of those thought bubble conversations. The same kind of thought bubble conversation Russ has been having with LeBron James for the past couple weeks. The conversations he's had with Bradley Beal over the last couple weeks. Hey, what are you doing? I want to make sure we're aligned. Let's do the same thing. Like, this was just a conversation. It wasn't like, hey, let's act on this.
Well,
but
Kawhi acted.
Look, Kaiser Sose over there, okay?
Right.
Like, Kawhi is a mastermind, and it was. I'd heard about this for a little while. I finally was able to confirm it up, but it does speak to the amount that Westbrook has been trying to get back to Los Angeles for a couple of years here. And I think what really sealed this for the Lakers, they had the trade for Buddy Hield. They woke up that morning thinking they were doing the trade for Buddy Hield. But when Russ saw those reports of how serious the Buddy Hield trade was, he's been talking to LeBron the whole time. He kind of knew, hey, it didn't work out the last time, but if I'm ever going to get back to my hometown, this is the time. So Russ and his agent, Thad Fouché, who, by the way, 3 trades in 3 years, and everywhere you leave, they send a press release saying, thank you for your efforts.
Right. Yeah.
It seems pretty well handled. Went to Tommy Shepard and said, look, we're happy to play here. We like it here in Washington, but if there's a way to get back to Los Angeles, if there's a trade with Los Angeles, today would be the day to do it because it's the draft. And he knew this would be the moment that Washington could get the most value for him.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.